Hey everybody, it's Doom here from Dungeons and Doom Biscuit, one half of the team behind DungeonSwag.com, and we're going to continue painting miniatures. I got 4 left here from the June box, and let me scoot those over so you can see them a little better. There we go. And I have this D6. We're going to ignore 5s and 6s. I'm just going to roll and pick one. I've been doing that all along, so let's stick with it. 6, we're ignoring. 2. Alright, it's to do with that chonky sword. Now normally when I use the term chonky, I'm referring to 3D prints that have a lot of angles and weird poor resolution, but I also sometimes use the term chonky when I mean thick and fat. So this is the dude we're going to do. He looks pretty sick, and I think what we're going to do is we're going to start out doing his undergarments in a brown. The theme for these dudes, they have to have green in them, that camo green in them, and some brown, so they're congruous. We're going to do this dark wood. Let me get my camera down here. I'll let you see my belly. My fat bear gut. It's McCruder. Giant fat bear gut McDoom. MacDoom. Alright, so I'm a little hyper tonight. It's late. And I am not a I'm not a night owl anymore. I'm old now. Alright. Am I painting on the camera? Maybe. Alright, so let's see. We got so this brown starting to pop. It's going to look sharp. It's going to look sharp. It's hard to get in there. Man, I like these minis. We played our Tomorrow Comes Doom in Space sci-fi game last night. We played late. We had a really good time. I am very blessed that I have pretty much the same role-playing group all the time that I run. But my beautiful wife is usually in charge of handling the dinner arrangements, and she, since I was out loafing around with a buddy yesterday, I was playing hooky from work, and I was out loafing around with a guy that I went to college with, and we're old friends, and we played D&D together for years. We were talking about him rejoining the group, but he has moved farther away. And for those of you that are adulting out there, you know that sometimes that puts a dent in your plans for playing games. We're going to hit these undergarments down here on the bottom too, like his pant legs and stuff. We're just going to kind of go with one color scheme for all that. Or one color palette for all. I don't know, just one color. We're going to hit that strap there. Come all the way down onto the top part of his boots, because we're going to dry brush those out because that's like a fur. So anyways, she said, can you stop and get stuff to make for dinner? Well, the genius that I am, where we go to Wally World, and I had to get some creamer and such for coffee. Some coffee, some K-cups for my Keurig. And I bought one jar of sauce and 2 things of like small shell pasta, thinking this looks delicious, and I did not buy enough sauce for everybody. So yeah, it wasn't good. I failed. You know what? It's like I say though, if you don't want me to do it my way, don't ask me to do it. I didn't know how much sauce we use. I didn't realize how much. Apparently we need to get 2 of the big jars of sauce. I bought 1 medium jar. Alright, so this dude's going to look pretty sick, I'm thinking. Get in there a little bit. He's got this sick elbow pads. Matching knee pads. Oh, I probably should have changed my water from yesterday. I did not. Oh, I was painting earlier with a Scorbic, my partner that runs DungeonSwag with me, and we were just BSing and painting minis and having fun. And I'll tell you what, I think you guys, if you give our July box a try, I think you will be excited. We don't just throw miniatures. You know, we don't just pick miniatures that we have the rights to print. We try to do a phenomenal job. We try to put stuff on your table that we want on our table. And I think we really just, some months we really nail it. Don't get me wrong, the May and June boxes are sick. But I think that you guys are going to be like, oh man, this July box is rockin'. Alright, so let's let that sit for a minute. Let's go and, while that's drying, before we start anything else in the body, let's hit the base. And we're going to pull out our craft paint for that. We're not going to use our good paint on the base. I have just very reliant on this color. I've been using this for a lot of my train stuff anyways. So now it's kind of my go-to for any basing I do. And it's probably a bad habit to be in. And these craft paints aren't, the consistency of these are not reliant. This giant bottle I have here, I'm familiar with how it's going to coat and stuff, but I'll be honest, like, relying on them heavily, not ideal for miniatures. I'm not saying you can't paint miniatures with them. For years I did, but mind you, I am not like a professional miniature painter. I'm a dude in my basement. Like, this is not my career. This is just something I do for fun. You know, I'm an environmental guy. I don't get paid to paint miniatures. I like it. It's fun. It's relaxing. I really enjoy it. So when we paint these bases, the main thing we want to do is try to get good coverage. We don't have to hit every spot because we're going to use a couple colors here, and we can pick up anything we missed as we go. But we want to get at least the dirt portion where I used baking soda for basing material to create the dirt pattern there. We want to get at least that, okay? There's a little something sticking up there. We're just going to paint it into the model and hope it gets solid as it dries. I think it's just a chunk of whatever. Didn't do any rocks on these bases. Still regretting that. That's one of my things I really like to do, is use small pebbles and stuff. My wife and I had like a date day because my little boys that still live at home are with my parents out at the lake. And so my wife and I had like this 12-hour long date day, and we went to a bunch of like grubby thrift shops and stuff looking for crap. And I did get some cool things. I'm not gonna lie. I got, for $5, I got this enormous bag of wine corks. Obviously, thanks to someone being a lush, I have this enormous bag of corks. I mean, this thing with just nothing but corks in it probably weighs 4.5, 5 pounds, maybe more. And then I got, where are they at? You guys probably don't even care. I'm really excited about my garbage I found. I got these. For $5, I got a giant coffee box full of these weird counting block things. There's a giant cube and smaller ones and stuff. There were literally, like, from some dice company, bases in it. Like, D&D bases in it. So whoever had it must have been, like, into role-playing games or something. So let's go back to our guy here. I think we're going to do the undergarments of the green, so we got to find that camo green. I don't know where I put that. I have this little, like, sorting thing over here for, like, the paints I use a lot. And then, if you can get over here, I have paints. Just keep turning. I have paints. And, so, yeah. Oh, let's get the camera back here in the middle. Ugh. I'll show you guys this place down here. It's a mess. I try to keep it as clean as I can, but man, I'm down here all the time in between working and stuff. And again, I'm just a dude in the basement. I am not a professional crafter. I don't do this full time. And this also in my garage here, besides just my D&D stuff and all the piles of foam and cardboard, I have a couple lawnmowers and some lawn care stuff in here too, because this is my garage. All right, we're going to get that regiment brush and that camo green, and we're going to come in here and start hitting up the cloth textures with this. And I think it's gonna be a long, long time Till touchdown brings me round again to find. Next time my adult sons are over here, I'll have one of them help me kind of clean up this place, and I'll walk around and show you what I got going on. But for me to try to clean all this by myself, it's about impossible. I got 3 fused vertebrae in my back, and I try to use all my physical power to invest in spending time with my family and doing my real job. And the last thing I want to do is spend a weekend ripping into this garage by myself and then be limping around like a dumbass. Moth right in my face. So there's like a leather pad on his chest in the middle here. I don't know how I'm going to handle that yet. And then there is some leather coming out from under the fur up there. And then that's the only real cloth spot. It was that kilt looking skirt deal. So we're going to rinse out our brush. And let's deal with this fur cloak. And I think it's going to be a long, long time. I've been using, for the base coat on these fur cloaks, up to this point, I think I've been using dark stone. So that's going to create like a consistency between minis if we keep using that. We want them to look like a unit that goes together. We don't want them to look like a bunch of vagrants running around. Murder hobos. Sorry. I love the term murder hobo. Yeah, so my wife and I went on this big long date. We went out to lunch. We went to this Plaza Azteca or something for lunch. It was super delicious. It's a little pricey, but everything is anymore. Like, you go out to eat at Arby's, you can spend $30, you know. So, you know, spending $50 to go out to a sit-down place and get something besides a burger or a sandwich is nice. We don't get to go out to eat a lot because I do travel for work and I'm gone. You know, some of my days are pretty long. And honestly, with how expensive it is to go out to eat, like, you know, we're not poor, I wouldn't say, but it's just not the investment of money. You know, we want to spend our money to enjoy life, and it's a lot cheaper to make something here than it is to go out to eat all the time. And I know people that make really good money that go out to eat all the time. I'm not pointing any fingers on your life choices, but you could really, like, have a better quality of life if you did that less. But it's so convenient, and we're all tired. Everybody works. Everybody does what they can to make their life better and their family better, and I understand that. You're tired. That piece that comes around right here is just an awkward spot. And I think it's gonna be a long, long time. The touchdown brings me around again to find I'm not the man I think I am at home. Oh, no, no, no. I was playing guitar earlier, and I'll tell you what, I think I nailed a very folky sounding Smells Like Teen Spirit by Nirvana. It's pretty fun. I am not a phenomenal guitarist, just like I'm not a phenomenal painter, nor am I a good singer. I just do it because it's fun. And I have been playing guitar for, I don't know, probably... my dad started teaching me when I was a kid, and I never really got into it. I wasn't real close with my dad when I was young. And when my first wife left me when I was in Iraq, my last tour in Iraq, I started playing guitar again. So I was about, I think, 25 or 26. So it's been about 18 years. It's just, I haven't had any formal training, you know. I just jam. I mean, I wouldn't say I'm terrible. I mean, like, one of my songs was on the radio one time about 10 years ago for a couple days, and then kind of didn't go anywhere because I didn't have a label or anything, but it wasn't even a good song, which was funny. Like, I just wrote it as a joke, and I had a friend that worked at a radio station, and people started asking for it, and then it just disappeared. I didn't want to be famous for that. You know, if I ever was famous for anything, I think about this kind of stuff because I know I never will be famous. I have, I'm a regular dude. I'm not anything spectacular. But if I were ever famous for anything, I would want it to be something that, like, you could be proud of. Like, I wouldn't want to be famous. I'm going to switch brushes on this helmet because I'm worried about, and I'm going to do the skin first, too. I'm worried about legacy as I'm getting older. Like, what did I leave behind in the world? Was I a positive influence on young people? Did I teach my sons to be good, strong men, nurturing, loving men that can raise families? I want to be like, I don't want my legacy to be like, yeah, man, he was like a badass. He punched people in the butt. Or, I was a big drinker, or I was a party machine, or, I don't know. I want my legacy to be something that anybody could be like, yeah, I'd be proud of that. And so it's hard trying to figure out how to be a person that leaves a legacy like that. You try to take examples from the people that came before you, and you try to look at people that are good role models in your life, and you try to emulate that. But it's hard because we're all our own people, and we've had our own experiences, and we've made our own mistakes and had our own victories. And a little green aphid just landed on my arm. I guess my garage is turning into a wildlife preserve. It's Bug City. Hate that. Getting the cracks of that helmet with that tan. That face darkened up quick. It's alright. Do you know that Vikings were not all white? So the Vikings took wives and people as slaves, or they took people as wives and people as slaves and stuff, and they traveled an enormous amount of the globe, and they met people from different cultures. They traded with Muslims and everyone, and so the Vikings were not all white. Like I saw some. The only reason I bring this up is because I was watching a YouTube video and somebody was saying, "Oh, that's stupid. There were no black Vikings." Well, there actually were black Vikings. There were Vikings of every color, race, creed, and mix in between. The Vikings were the first melting pot, like the U.S., because they didn't value everything based off of aesthetics. They valued things off of function and worth. So if they met a group of people that they were attracted to because these people had qualities they liked, they would learn what they could from them and implement it in the culture. Because the Vikings, although they were kind of like barbaric and violent, they weren't dumb. They were actually a very smart culture. Like a lot of modern irrigation and stuff comes from ideas they got from collaborating with different groups. And also a lot of people don't realize you're probably descended from Vikings to an extent, no matter where you're from, unless you're from the southern hemisphere. Likely if you're from the northern hemisphere, there's some Viking in you somewhere, because they spread everywhere. They were really potent, and they were out and about doing their thing. I don't know why I'm talking about this. I'm not a historian. I do have some deep love for the lore of our world, though. So as I'm not a historian, but I have taken military history classes, and I guess I kind of know a little bit about major weaponry technologies that changed the course of the world to an extent. I mean, there are some things I do know, I guess formally, but I'm not by any means a historian or a expert on anything. It's just like everything else. I'm not a good painter. I'm not a good historian. I really want to get a good darker color on these boots, because they looked, when I put the first coat on too thin, walking around on them, they looked really goofy. So I had to darken those up. This guy's starting to look pretty sick, man. I mean, not obviously we walked into him looking sick. Just the miniature is amazing, but do that sword hilt. You want some comedy, you gotta go check out on YouTube. William Shatner did some beatniky kind of albums, and one of the songs he did was Rocket Man. And it's so funny because he's like, and I think it's gonna be a long, long time. And he does that Captain Kirk speak, and it's so damn funny. and people bought that. Like that he made money off of that endeavor. It's so funny because you wouldn't think like Elton John. He was like a talented musician, singer, songwriter, pianist, and then you get Leonard Nimoy did a Beatnik album or two too, I believe. I don't know if I've watched those, but I did watch the William Shatner ones and just laughed and couldn't believe that was a thing. I love William Shatner. Don't get me wrong. Captain Kirk was one of the Space Lord heroes of my childhood, but it just cracks me up that was a thing. I'm a rocket man. McCoy, bring me my rockets. He doesn't say that. I'm just being stupid now. I'm a doctor, not a rocket burger. I'm going to use a little bit of a lighter on that strap there just because I want it to stick out a little bit. And I'm going to use that same color, the same lighter color. I'm going to do the back of the shield with that. And I'm going to pick up any little spots that have brown that I didn't do yet. And I'm going to be high as a kite by then. I miss the earth so much, I miss my wife. It's cold and lonely in outer space. On such a timeless flight. Oh my, I can't get behind this shield. I'm going to have to learn my lesson about not putting these shields on until I'm done. And I think it's going to be a long, long time. Touchdown brings me around again to find not the man I think I am at home. Oh no, no, no. I'm the Rocket Man. The Rocket Man. Oh my gosh. I am going to just paint all these tonight, dudes. I don't know if I'm going to post all the videos tonight, but I'm having so much fun painting these. They come out so strong and so good, and it's just, I really love these minis. Like, you have to understand, okay, for years, my wife and I came back from, like, Iraq, and my first wife had left me, and she was with some Giacomo, and, the world changed, and I was paying child support, like, this was in a time, where people guys didn't have a chance of ever winning in court back in West Virginia back then. Like, if you were a dude, you just knew you lost. So getting a lawyer was just damage control so that you would take the least hit you could. And, my wife and I, she was a lot younger than I was. I was in my late 20s by then, and she was 21, and we were dating. We weren't married. We didn't get married for years and years and years. But we struggled, and we made decisions and career choices that weren't always good, and I was trying to provide a good life, but I wasn't doing a great job as a father. I had to really do some growing up to get to the point where I was able to make better decisions. So anyways, that being said and put out into the open, we couldn't afford like a lot of our D&D stuff that we wanted. Couldn't afford cool minis. Couldn't afford terrain or all the books we wanted. So when we did have any money we could put into the hobby, we always bought books first as a priority, and then we bought with the cheapest minis we could, because we really, I always liked minis. So when we'd buy the cheapest minis we could, often we'd get like HeroClix or stuff that we could buy in lots cheap on certain websites. And then I would have to do a lot of conversion work, and I had to learn to become a better painter. Now, had learned some painting from like dudes in hobby shops and stuff, but a lot of that was like painting like Napoleonic armies and like World War II armies and like war game stuff, but it was similar. But the thing is, when you paint like war game stuff, people aren't going to be touching it. like you're going to have it on a tray or you're going to be handling it. And so you can really get in and like do every detail you want and not worry about, your models are almost like a display piece too. When you do D&D stuff, you don't want to kill yourself painting them because some dude with, ketchup on his hand from French fries is going to grab your mini and move it to where he's going. So you don't put that same, that same love into it, I guess. You can, but you should really consider how much time you spend painting your D&D minis because it's a different world, We gotta get some coat on that blade there. I guess bigger brush. So anyways, I know we were so poor. So if you wanted a mini that was detailed like that, if you could even find one, like Dark Sword minis and other websites did have stuff like this. But to get something that had this kind of detail was going to cost you $1 million. 3D printing just wasn't where it is now. And so I spent, I still have shoe boxes full of miniatures of really cheap crap I acquired or made trades for or that people gave me. And some of the stuff is just, you would look at it now and say, compared to the rest of my collection, it's unusable. But there was a day where that's all I had, okay? I had nothing else. And everybody was actually happy. Like, my players were happy. I was always a little embarrassed if I went and someone had, really nice miniatures. And, I have a hero click that I made a sword for out of a toothpick or whatever. I'm a decent kit basher, but you know what I mean. I have some crappy stuff. So, Tom, or Scorbic, the other half of DungeonSwag, and I have been friends for years. We played video games together and became really close friends, and we've actually even been to each other's homes, and we know each other's families. I love his children. I would do anything for them like I would do for my own. And he's always been a little better off than me. He grew up in an area and in different conditions, than I did. I grew up poor in West Virginia, and he was a little bit higher up on the echelon, but in PA. And we both knew that everything in role-playing and tabletop games and war games was incredibly expensive. And so 3D printing started to become more of a thing, and the idea for DungeonSwag came. And our main goal, and I say our main goal, but for me, it has always been about giving people really good miniatures for dirt cheap. So if you go on the website and you look at our prices and you're like, how can this be this cheap for this monthly box? Well, the goal is to have a lot of subscribers to our monthly box and to hopefully sell some one-offs to make some profit. Because the mini box is so that everybody can afford to have nice miniatures on their table. It is not about a giant profit margin. And that's how it started. We just wanted to give people something that neither of us could really afford to have. I even developed a skirmish game that you can use any miniatures for, but we decided that with one-page rules out there and other systems already out there for skirmish games and stuff, that there was no point in really pushing that or doing anything with it, because we did play it. My oldest son and a bunch of his friends came over and they played my skirmish game all night. You can use any miniatures for it, which is why it's fun. You can just say, I'm going to build an orc army and grab whatever orc miniatures you have, and there's rules for that, and you just build it, Now, if you look on the shield here, this guy looks like he's kind of a brawler. So the metal behind this shield, behind the wooden bossing or leather bossing, is probably just metal too. So I don't know why. I just felt like I was going to bring a little bit of that out. Like this shield might. Usually I paint these guys like they're just coming into combat and they're not all beat up yet. But I just wanted to do something a little different with that for some reason. So just ignore it. Don't do that on yours unless you really want to. Alright, so now let's do something with the base coat on the ground. Let's lighten that up. I think we're at a comfortable point where we can remove this piece of tape. Yes, I know I recycle cardboard and use it side after side and everything over and over again, but tape's one of those ones that once your speed paint's dry on tape, you're kind of done there. Any paint's dry on tape, you're not going to reuse that part. Alright, so one of the things I've been using a lot is this Monster Brown to lighten up the grounds. It's a pretty good color for it. I think it's going to be a long, long time. You just want to get some of that. I use way too much. You don't need that much for this. You want to wipe a lot of that off. Just want to kind of rub it along the ground in different patterns. Because dirt is not all one color. If you go on a paint program and take a photo of dirt and put it on there, and you keep clicking on different spots with a little eyedropper, you will pick up grays and browns and blues and oranges and grays. I mean, you would not believe the colors you'll pick up out of dirt. So we want to make sure our dirt is not all one color, because that is not believable. We're going to get something a little lighter. We're going to get this uniform gray and mix it with that and just go one more pass real quick. Just that little teeny spit of uniform gray is perfect for what I want. Look at that. Doop. It's actually too much even. Mix those up. Wipe a lot of that off, even more so than the last group, because this is going to be closer to a dry brush at this point. Oh, you can't see. Sorry. Man, I just don't have great lighting down here tonight. I moved some of my stuff around trying to help, and I think I did some damage. That brush I was using is a very crappy brush. It was like from Wish or something like that, or some really bad website. I got like a bunch of these for like a couple bucks, but they're really good for terrain and bases and stuff you don't want to use your good brushes on. So he's starting to come together. We're going to have to lighten up that cloak. And I think what we're going to do to lighten up that cloak is we're going to get a darker, like this oak brown here. And we're going to leave this little bit of wet stuff here to play with in a minute. We're going to get that oak brown. We're going to get a piece of cardboard. If you were watching the other video, I mentioned that I was going to show you guys how to, or show you guys a dry brush board. I can't find it. I don't know if when we moved, if I tossed it or if it's in a box. And we've moved a couple of years ago, but I've still not unpacked everything. My whole old house didn't have like, I didn't have like a designated area that was just mine for crafting and stuff. Like when we bought a house, we really wanted to make sure we had a D&D room and a crafting area and stuff, so I wouldn't just kind of take over the whole place and make a mess with my stuff. But that being said, I have not dedicated the time to finding everything or pulling everything out. So you don't have to hit every spot on this because we're going to be doing some different layers of color on here. But you do want to get, you know, enough to show a color change. And then you're going to lighten that up a little bit with the next little bit. Wipe a lot of that off. Come back on it. It's lighter area, lighter colors. You hit the higher areas more, and the lower areas less. I'm not giving a class. Don't listen to me. I don't know anything. There's just, you want to show some color change throughout the cloak. Just go ahead and work on that. Get it where you want it. Now I'm trying to get this a little drier. Cardboard absorbs a lot of the water out of the paint, so I use a lot of cardboard for that kind of. So if you've been watching, you see what I do. I miss you so much this morning. We're going to lighten that up again. We're going to start going into that grayish color there and steal some of that while it's a little bit damp yet. And then we're going to use that as our final lightening. Most likely. We'll take a look at it, but I think that's going to be as light as we need to go here. Brush it around, catch some of the spots. me see if I can zoom in. We can get a better look at that. That beard is a little too yellow. So I think I'm going to get like a sandier color. But first, let's get the skin tone fixes we need to get going. And before that, let me get the black on the base. All my fantasy miniatures. What the hell? Come on now. I don't know if I can seal this all the way. Oh, pulled that right off. There we go. Oh, gross. And I kept my hands so clean today. I was being such a good boy. There we go. I gotta make a big old mess over here. Clean up some of that. Oh, that didn't do it. Alright, good enough. Close enough for government work. You have a 10% margin for error. And I got paint on my thumb. Oh, my dirt burr. Alright, so with these bases, I lick my brush, get the point with my lips, make the point of my brush real sharp. I get a thin coat of this. I come around the edge. Get all the area that's not like that dirt mat cover that I made with the, what do you call this stuff? Baking soda. If you mess up here, it's very forgiving because the black kind of creates an outline and just painting around the edge. Now, none of these are ever the same because I don't, I just put super glue on here and I spread it around, then I dip it in baking soda and pick up that dirt texture, and then I just kind of knock it off and brush it off. And so no two bases that I do have the exact same shape around here. So it's always like interesting to see what I ended up with as the shape of that brown. Sometimes I don't come close enough to the edge, or sometimes I go over the edge and I have to break it off. That's alright. I'm not a pro, nor do I wish to be. Alright, so we got to do something with the skin. And we got to do something with that giant bright yellow beard. And I think we're going to need to bring out some more color on that chest piece. Oh, look at that. One of those little printing supports. Alright. Flesh tone. So we're going to use this tanned flesh. And we're going to use a little bit of this skeleton bone. And we're painting some pretty fine areas, so I'm going to use this starter brush because it's pretty small. We're just going to touch that face bottom part there under his helmet lightly to catch that little bit of lip. Oh, I went onto the beard. Then we're going to touch up around his hands. Oh, I have way too much paint on here. I'm going to regret this. We're going to come back with a lighter tan again. That's alright, dudes. I try to keep my paint jobs under an hour, but every great once in a while, you just got to get your mini to that right quality to where you're okay with putting it on the table. And for everybody, that's going to be different. Your what you think is good and what I think is good are not going to be the same, and that's okay, dudes. Dudettes. It's okay, man. There's no rule as to what the actual real standard has to be. You're your own person. You're the one putting in the work and painting this stuff and doing it. You're the one that's displaying it or sharing it during games. Don't worry about what other people are doing or what other people think. Do it for you. You'll be a lot happier, dudes. All right. That's a more reasonable flesh tone there for sure. Cover up that really bright that I did. Let's get a look at that. Under that mask, we're going to touch that one more time. Let's lighten that up a little bit. Now we got to figure out what we're doing about that chunky, or not chunky, that dark beard. Man, I hate to use speed paint on that, but I hate to start with a base coat. I'm going to use this sand golem, which is like a tan, and I'm going to try to just get it really thin. Let's pull it out here and just go over that beard. That's actually looks like it's going to be okay. It's still a little vibrant, but when it dries, it might not be so. All right, so let's go over some of the metal again. And I think it's gonna be a long, long time. Just now brings me back into the fun. Nothing else. Pick out some of the spots that need to be a little more metallic looking. The pattern on that shield, I want it to stick out pretty good. I think I missed a bit of his belt there. Okay, so if you look here, I got a little bit of silver on that that belt across his body. I'm going to get my brush and rinse the metallic out of it. I'm going to try to pull that off real quick. Couldn't get it, so we're going to grab a little bit of that brown and just cover it up. Okay. So the metallic on his belt is a little bit too much, like just silver sticking out there. And then his sword's a little bright. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get this, I use this on the armor of the other dudes, this runic gray of the knight dudes. I'm going to use this on his sword and give it a little bit of a different look. Because metallics and speed paints are your friend. I'm going to use that on these shoulder pads too, and the knee pads. I think that looks decent. I was going to use that Gravelord Gray, but I really like the look of this on metal. He's starting to look all right. I think we're about there. Now remember, when you're painting your miniature, you need to go to the level that you're comfortable with and that you like. So if you look at mine, you're like, dude, that's terrible. Yeah. Compared to yours, maybe. Compared to the next guy's, mine might be sick. We don't know. This is Zealot Yellow. I know it looks bright orange there. think I want to lighten up his face mask a little bit. Or his, like where the nose and eyes are covered up. Yeah, it's pretty good. Alright, so what do we got left here? I think we're pretty much done. I'd like to do like some red on that dot on his sword, I think. To make it look like a gem. We are so close to being done. I don't want to dirty another, or rip another piece of tape with this guy if I don't have to. So we're going to try to just be careful. And this is a small dot. So we're going to have to be super careful not to ruin this. I'm not going to do it on the inside handle because I think I'll just make a mistake and mess it up. I kind of want to do it on these little dots on his shield too. Alright. Now we have to get some flock on this base, so let me clean my, or not clean, rinse my brush out. I'll clean all these brushes after the video. If I stop and clean every brush in between, you guys are going to think I'm a psycho. Alright, so we got, oh my poor glue gun. I love you, I'm sorry. That's actually my wife's chore bonder. I broke mine. I left it on and it like caught on fire. So I had to take my wife's. Mine was getting pretty old and beat up anyways. Oh, I just knocked hers down again. It's going to be burning on fire too. So you want to use like your crappy brushes for sure on glue. And you don't want it to be real soft. You want it to be kind of rigid. Like a rigid brush. You can push it down into any texture you need to easily. And it's not just floating along the surface. And all we're doing is figuring out where we want the green flock to stick. And covering that area. We're going to get our flock. I've been using this same Woodland Phoenix flock for all these miniatures because it's kind of like a color scheme I've just randomly got going now. And even though I don't use this Woodland on any terrain ever, I've been using it on all these DS minis. And it creates a pretty nice contrast on that dirt. And I just really, even though it's not realistic, that every grass that you see is like this vibrant, crazy bright green. And all the flocks I made are nowhere near this vibrant. But I don't know, I like it and it sticks out and it's sharp. And so we're going to let him dry. Let's zoom in and take a look at him. We're going to let him dry. We're going to get a clear coat on him. And then I'm going to take him up and put him into play on the D&D table. Or the role-playing game table. And see how he looks with his friends. Thanks everybody for watching. If you like the minis and you like what we're doing here, like and subscribe. Go to our Discord and our website. They're in the description, or they will be when I post this. And check out our minis. We do have one-offs and not just the subscription service on the website now. So it's a lot easier to find some of that. And as we get them, we don't want to just show what the STLs look like. We want to show what the finished prints look like. So we're getting there. We're getting the website where it needs to be. You have to understand we're both regular dudes with jobs, so it doesn't go as quick and we don't have the time to dedicate that you would think. So yeah, check us out. And thanks for watching. I hope you guys had a nice time. I had a nice time painting. See you in a little while.